Christians will assume they'll try to push drugs to keep us all dumbed down and hope that they will never see the truth around. Another promise, another scene, another package lie to keep us trapped in greed. Another green bells wrapped around our minds, an endless red tape to keep the truth confined. They will not force us. They will stop degrading us. They will not control us. We will be victorious.
Hello, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. I see some East Palestine residents. Yay. I see Tamara, Jake, Rob. This is awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. God, there's so much to talk about. Matt is going to be my co-host tonight. Matt has been in East Palestine all 4 times. I have. So Matt, thanks so much for helping me tonight.
Sure. Who else do we have?
We have very special guests who I've had numerous times. So we have Lesley Pacey, who is from the Government Accountability Project, and we have Scott C. Smith, independent scientist. You know them both. They've been here numerous times, but things in East Palestine are ever changing. So they always have an open invitation. So thanks to you guys so much for coming back.
Thanks, Joy. Great to be here.
So there was another bomb dropped yesterday. And, Lesley, I'm going to start with you because, we've seen so much with whistleblowers. Gap has done countless FOIAs. We've had so many gotchas, and then things just kind of, they're not, they kind of fizzle out and they're not as as we thought they'd be. So what is different about this EPA whistleblower coming out yesterday?
Well, what's different is we have an insider now that has direct knowledge that the EPA did not use the Aspect aircraft according to its normal protocols. Contrary to the EPA's response, I just noticed that one of the residents just sent me. It was not standard operating procedure. They said they followed standard operating procedures consistent with previous Aspect responses. That's absolutely not true. So once again, we have the EPA spinning things. But what's different about this, Joy, is it's really like a multiple page affidavit showing that the EPA didn't do what they normally do in these types of disasters. That airplane is supposed to go out within hours, and it's supposed to stay there for days and collect, hours and hours of data. These guys, couldn't believe it that we're working, in the offices handling the scientific side and the data processing. They couldn't believe that it took till day 5 after the vent and burn to get this airplane deployed. And there was no explanation for it except for a migraine from one of the program directors. So it's just really baffling. And I've heard this wonderful whistleblower, Robert Crowdell. He is he just retired. He's such a nice gentleman, and he's deeply troubled by this. So that's why he's speaking out to us. But a lot of times, we have Scott, and he's wonderful, and he's got all this data. But this is one of our first inside people that can see from a very close distance some of the decisions that were made, and it doesn't make sense to him. So, they could have prevented the vent and burn had they run this properly. They could have found out what chemicals were in the air. They missed that window of opportunity. They could have not lifted the evacuation based on that knowledge. They didn't do any of it. And then they came out and said that they had such, if I hear one more time that they have robust air monitoring, I'm sick of that, because how robust are you when you fail to use your best piece of technology?
Right.
So
now would be a good time, Matt, if you want to show that video from the wonderful Rich McHugh from last night on News Nation, the only mainstream media who has been covering East Palestine from day one.
Here at News Nation, we're dedicated to covering stories some news outlets neglect and some politicians simply ignore. That is why we have been all over the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, ever since the train's cargo of vinyl chloride first filled the sky. The accident happened more than 15 months ago, but the cleanup, it's still ongoing. And information about what really happened is leaking out right here. A new EPA whistleblower sat down exclusively with News Nation to speak out about what he calls the agency's failures in the days following the disaster. He says it's not what the EPA did so much as it is what they did not do after the incident. News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has been covering the story from the very start. He joins us live from East Palestine. Rich, what is the whistleblower telling you?
Hey, Elizabeth, of all the stories that we've reported from East Palestine since the beginning, this one may be the most important. This whistleblower, extremely credible, having worked for the Department of Defense and a contractor for the EPA for 4 decades. He says the EPA failed to protect the people of East Palestine. On February 6, 2023, officials in East Palestine, Ohio, burned 5 tank cars full of vinyl chloride.
You ready? I'm ready. Let's get out of here.
3 days later, the EPA gave the all clear for residents to come back. Immediately, residents complained of sicknesses and rashes.
I had a rash all over the side of my face, on both sides, and all over my chest.
EPA Chief Michael Regan, visiting East Palestine, praised the work of the EPA, giving specific credit to the high-tech airplane they used to detect chemical compounds in the air. It's called Aspect.
We've had boots on the ground, leading robust air quality testing, including the Advanced Technological Aspect Plane.
Robert Crowdell is a scientist, spent 4 decades helping to create the Aspect program, originally for the Department of Defense and later as a contractor with the EPA. Today, he is blowing the whistle on the EPA and their use of the Aspect plane with the disaster in East Palestine.
That deployment was the most unusual deployment I've ever seen.
He says the EPA protocol is to have the plane in the air within hours of a chemical disaster. And in all his missions, he has never seen this response.
In East Palestine, we had a big delay.
How big of a delay?
5 days.
5 days.
5 days.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm still asking myself that question. Why you would deploy this aircraft 5 days late?
The plane, Crowdell says, should have been there immediately, flying and gathering data for days.
We should be there at least 2 weeks to monitor the situation.
And that did not happen.
That did not happen.
And this deviates from how this plane is used in every other disaster.
It deviates from that.
They should have been collecting data while the toxic plume was in the sky, he says.
We only were deployed for 2 missions on February 7th. And by that time, the plumes were out, the fire was out. The aircraft actually only collected data, 8 minutes worth of data over the targets.
What does it usually collect?
Oh, hundreds of minutes.
Even more troubling, he says they turned off the chemical sensors over the creeks in East Palestine.
Is that normal protocol?
That's not normal protocol.
No. Was there a reason given?
No.
The Government Accountability Project has come forward to offer him legal protection as a whistleblower.
The EPA didn't gather the chemical information that it could have gathered to inform first responders, the community, and our government officials as to what to do with evacuations, protecting the public, and the vent and burn. They could have done this and they chose not to.
The question is why.
Crowdell says he was even told not to write the words East Palestine in his reports. Crowdell decided to file a Freedom of Information Act request to get more information on the actual mission of the flights. Then he was threatened with his job.
I was told that I'd be fired within 24 hours if I didn't rescind the FOIA action.
And so what did you do?
I rescinded the FOIA.
Crowdell resigned.
Why have you made this choice to speak out?
Because it's the truth.
Now, Crowdell says the EPA managers amended his final report from inconclusive to a success. EPA is pushing back on his claim, saying they did not fly the plane because of weather, something that he refutes directly. Elizabeth?
Thanks so much for watching. Go to...
So, Scott, I'm going to bring it to you. I mean, as a scientist, does that make any freaking sense that you would test after the plume has kind of dissipated?
Well, it only makes sense if you subscribe to You Can't Find What You Don't Look For. You know, Mark Durno and the EPA subscribes to. But before that, Joy, let me just say, you, Matt, the entire community of East Palestine, everyone I've met, Lesley, Pacey, Government Accountability Project, I owe you all a debt of gratitude for making me believe in this country again. Because this team that has been assembled from all walks of life proves that you can come together to get the truth out and take direct on the government $12 billion worth of EPA and 17,000 mostly useless employees we now know. Sorry. There are some good ones. When I say mostly useless, probably 90%, 10% reach out to me. But I want to put that in perspective. And there's so much I want to say tonight, so much more coming out, but to best protect the community of East Palestine after 26 trips and 30 rounds of testing, I have to kind of zip my lips a little bit. But I can tell you this is just the beginning. And now everything makes sense. The smear, the defamation, the attacks I've taken, and you know, Robert Crowdell coming out is an absolute hero for doing this. This confirms everything. So again, why would you shut the sensors off over the creeks? Why would you wait on the plane? And because you can't find what you don't look for. They didn't want to find anything. And there you're going to see Mark Durno and the EPA double down with their smears and with their lies. And instead of getting angry, we have to look at Mark Durno and the EPA as the gifts that keep on giving, because we are now dealing with bureaucrats that are so condescending. When you're condescending, arrogant, and incompetent, it's a dream come true for people like us.
Yep.
It really is.
Especially when we have tape recorders.
No, over and over and over again. And now I know why, you know, the EPA, Mark Durno, Norfolk Southern, they didn't want to. My offer remains open. I'd still test side by side. I'd still sit down with them and share all my details as long as it was in reciprocity. So the EPA is trying everything. And and they're the ones with the disinformation and the misinformation.
Yep.
And I also want to point out CBS, Roxanne Sabari, Alex Prescia from ABC News, Rebecca Kiger, Time Magazine. Shame on all of you for worshiping the government. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? But I want to go on record to say I believe in redemption. I'm a graduate of Baylor University, and it is a religious school. And I want to say, with all this being said, I would welcome Mark Durno and all these journalists. I would be the first to say we should all forgive them and offer them redemption if they come forward with the truth and stop worshiping the government and believing everything they say. Because after what has come out now,
yep,
any journalist that ever believes another word out of Mark Durno's mouth or the EPA's when it comes to East Palestine is not a journalist. They are a public relations person for the federal government and the EPA.
Absolutely.
And I also will give credit where credit is due. Jess Kennard and what she did today with Rich McHugh, I haven't seen the full story about the air testing at her house. She deserves credit for that. And Joy,
Oh, I haven't even seen it. I don't know what happened.
a lot of credit for coming out. Again, there's a lot to go over here, and the audience may not understand about Mom's Clean Air Force and how they manipulated things. That goes right to the White House. And let's not forget, before the Biden visit, Mom's Clean Air Force, the quote, tax-exempt organization holding themselves out to be a nonprofit that's part of the Environmental Defense Fund, goes directly to the White House because the key communications person there came right out of the Biden White House. They handpicked people and that were going along with the EPA. But Jess Kennard deserves a lot of credit with Rich McHugh today. And I also I think you should go on record and you should invite Misty Allison and Hillary Flint on your show to get their reaction about the EPA. Because
they are welcome. Absolutely.
If they truly care about the community, they should be willing to come out because the truth is now out there about the EPA. And
absolutely.
I also want to say something else, and you can't make this stuff up. And you may have seen my Facebook post. I'm a graduate of Baylor University, as you know. My brother graduated there. I was there for the graduation ceremony Saturday, where my nephew graduated at Triple Legacy. I have to go back to Dallas this weekend, where my niece is graduating from high school, going to Baylor. But I almost fell off my chair, as Lesley knows. Paige Delgado, the EPA on-scene coordinator out of Dallas, in charge of the Aspect plane, is a Baylor graduate. I emailed her yesterday, and please share that email. And I mean what I say. That when I realized that's her LinkedIn, but I don't know if you can pull up the email that I forwarded.
Yeah,
you guys.
Give me 1 second.
Now explain to people who she is exactly.
Yeah, she was responsible. She's an on-scene coordinator, and that's not that far away from like Mark Durno, and she's probably closely in contact with. She's in charge of the Aspect plane. But you can see what I said. Dear Paige, I just realized you're a graduate of Baylor at University, as am I. I just attended Baylor's 2024 graduation. I'm also a whistleblower client of the Government Accountability Project. One thing I always carried with me as a Baylor graduate is that it's never too late for redemption. Should you want to come forward as a whistleblower, I can assure you that you can trust Lesley Pacey and the Government Accountability Project. Also, I have presented in all my 60 disasters, I have presented at Baylor about my environmental experience, and I will be going back there to talk about East Palestine. And I really mean this, Joy. As much as I get smeared and attacked and everything by the EPA, I would still welcome, for the benefit of the community, to sit down. Everyone deserves redemption and forgiveness.
Yep.
And Mark Durno, even as much as he continues to lie and deceive, I think we owe it to the community humans to always read that olive branch for him to come forward and admit the truth. And I want to offer that to Paige too. And that, that's really what it's all about. So you can't make a lot of this stuff up with the way this is all happening. And the EPA right now, they are so arrogant, though. They know what's going on. They know they have Mom's Clean Air Force and $1 billion Environmental Defense Fund. They know they have White House protection, but what they can't control is the truth, and all of us banding together to get the message out on social media, which is imperative.
Absolutely. Now, I could be way off base, but when I saw this woman, I couldn't help but wonder, is she the one that went up to you and came out of the woods? Is that the same woman?
No. That is
okay.
That is a contractor from Arcadis. We still don't know her identity. And again, Norfolk Southern in the EPA, I've been accused of making up that video. I shot it from my iPhone. I've offered the video footage. It's not AI. It's not made.
God,
It's the real
it's
thing.
AI. Come on.
But now we know the truth, guys. Now we know why when I showed up on February 22nd in the creek, the same creek that Paige Delgado of the EPA and the EPA shut the sensors off the creek, and I was testing for dioxins and all the other chemicals in the water. Now we know why that woman came out of the woods to try to intimidate me, among many other things. Everything, and again, God bless Robert Crowdle and everything, because now everything makes sense. And everything I've been saying, this is a great team. Everyone plays a small role here in a much larger role in getting the truth out.
Absolutely. Lesley, I want to bring it back to you. So, did the EPA whistleblower reach out to Government Accountability Project, or were you referred to him? How did that come about?
Well, I can't really say how I got him exactly, but a source of ours in East Palestine connected us. And he wanted to tell his story. He didn't know who to tell it to. And so, you know, and when I first started listening to him, my jaw hit the floor, because it wasn't just, oh, they were super late. You know, there was one thing after another that he was disclosing that it just kept looking worse and worse. And, you know, I have so much respect for him for going through this process, which is really scary. You know, anytime a whistleblower comes out, it's scary. But he's doing this because, like you said, it's the truth, and he's concerned about the people of East Palestine. He's really worried about them, and he thinks what EPA did to them is terrible. So he's just, you know, he's telling what he knows, and you know, I'm just so thankful that he is. It's so important. I told him he's now in the club. I said, "You're in the club." Yeah. The small group of us that are fighting. He says, "Oh, I don't know if I want to be in that club," but I said, "Well, you're now in the club."
Well, he's in it. He's an honorary member.
Right. So,
well, I do. Matt, if you could pull up the attestation that that they gave that he gave Government Accountability Project, stating that he's not, you know, under threats or duress, you know, with his statement.
The affidavit, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, let me pull that up. You want this, like the signed statement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
If you just want to go over a little of that.
Sure, yeah. It says, "My name is Robert Crudel." Am I saying that right? I'm submitting the statement without any threats, inducements, or coercion to Lesley Pacey, who has identified herself to me as the environmental investigator with the Government Accountability Project. The statement evidences my experience regarding the EPA Aspect airplane program and its delayed use and misuse during the East Palestine train derailment response. So until January 27th, 2024, he was the data quality project manager at Kalman & Company Incorporated, under contract with the EPA for the Aspect airplane or Aspect program. Working with several colleagues, we developed the sensors in the aircraft. Nearly 1 million lines of software are on that sensor aircraft, and we wrote them all.
Incredible.
It is.
I'm going to stop you right there. This guy, you cannot have a more qualified.
Yes.
I mean, he helped create the technology for the Aspect plane when he was at the Department of Defense. I mean, this guy knows about this airplane and its capabilities intimately. Every one of the 180 missions that this aircraft has been deployed to, he was present for those. He knows what's standard operating procedures and what isn't.
Yep.
And for the EPA to come back with this on their website today, or whenever that came up yesterday, Thank you, Lori, for sharing that. For them to come up with this, we've done everything according to standard operating procedure. I mean, just because you say it doesn't make it so. I mean, this guy is so qualified. He knows.
And what does he have to gain to come out right now?
Right. What does he have? A retired career scientist. What does he have to gain by coming out and sharing this?
Right.
If he wasn't so disgusted and so baffled by this and concerned about the people of East Palestine and concerned that this is going to happen in the next derailment or the next disaster, this is a beautiful piece of technology. It can detect 530 chemicals at a very low levels of detection. And by the way, it also eliminates the whole biased contractor element. I mean, this is an EPA product run by EPA and EPA contractors. It's not something that relies on paid contractors for the responsible party like Norfolk. So, I mean, they could have had an objective, wonderful piece of technology doing these readings, and instead they chose to put the public in harm's way, and they didn't care. I'm sorry if they don't like me saying that, but that's how it appears.
That's the nicest way to put it, I think.
That's a very nice way to put it. Yeah, careless is the epitome of, what other things has Robert stated that really just shock you?
Okay. So we have the timing of the very late deployment, which never happened in another disaster ever. The lack of using the equipment to detect the heat in the train cars and stopping the entire vent and burn. The turning off of the sensors for the chemicals over all the creeks. That includes Sulphur Run, Lesley Run, and Little Beaver Creek. During the 2 deployments on February 7th, and just taking photographs. The changing the report after they only collected 8 minutes of data, which is highly unusual as well, over missing the targets, by the way. They didn't even get the derailment site properly. So they had 8 minutes of data. So, Robert said this was incomplete data. They needed to go back, and then the report comes out, vent and burn success. How is that even anyway? So then there was the they flew without divulging their standard operating procedures. They said that they were proprietary, and they used to always be open source public SOPs, and the people that were analyzing the data really couldn't even do so properly because they didn't have the proprietary standard operating procedures. They did not have any QA/QC data for that flight. They came in 3 weeks later. Paige Delgado came in 3 weeks later and asked for them to write QA/QC for the mission. And I can just go. It just goes on and on. They said don't put the words East Palestine in the emails. Don't put it in the subject line or in the email itself.
And why would they do something like that? Why would they? What's the reason? I have a guess.
They don't want anybody to know what they're doing. I don't know. It's just
shady. It's super shady.
But that's kind of it's a funny question, but it's true though, because like if they're saying we didn't deploy a plane till 5 days later, whether they say East Palestine or not, they're kind of telling on themselves.
Right. Well, then the report just comes out, and they do put the date in there that they actually collected all their data on February 7th, but they use it and they tout it as part of their the air is safe, only low detections of chemicals. Well, gee whiz, if you're going to wait till after all the fires are gone, the plumes dissipated, and all the chemicals are soaked down with water, they can't pick up the vapors from the chemicals. It's completely lost, a lost opportunity. And the other hot zone would be your creeks. But, lo and behold, they turn the sensors off over the creeks. And that was never addressed, by the way, when the EPA was approached by the Associated Press and Rich McHugh from News Nation. I think they said something like that they didn't need the aspect airplane. Well, they don't address the other points in Robert's affidavit, but so there were numerous things, and I know I'm forgetting something. I probably need to look at our press release, but.
I'm curious, have you guys looked into what the weather was that week?
Yes.
And what was it? Because that's the first thing I thought of, like, I don't think so.
There were no icing conditions. There was no unusual weather. There was no reason that they couldn't have got off the ground. From the people that understand meteorology, from what we looked up into the reports for the airports, when what we looked at for, weather underground, there was no advisories. And by the way, they had flown right past it on their way to Pittsburgh, or, they didn't stop and at least do a few passes before the vent and burn. Another revelation is, and this is kind of strangely serendipitous, but about a month before, when we were getting some FOIA documents that were coming in, we saw a email between Paige Delgado and Robert's boss, and it was an email that they were exchanging about an hour before the decision to vent and burn. And he was basically telling her to fly a Christmas tree pattern. If they're going to deploy the aircraft, fly a Christmas tree pattern, and that they're going to find mostly phosgene and vinyl chloride in the plume. And so the EPA knew they were going to find phosgene, which is a chemical weapon banned in World War I, as we all know. And they also knew they were going to find vinyl chloride, and then they never flew. So, and they decided just one pass over that, they probably could have told that the train cars were not hot enough to blow up. So, there's so many ways that we can talk about this being complete, I don't know what the word is. It's just a cluster. It really is. And it would be funny if it wasn't killing people and making them sick and ruining their lives. It's completely unacceptable. And we did file a request for the OIG, the EPA OIG, to investigate this fully. We now have Senator Brown behind us. We're hoping Senator Vance also joins in. He's been briefed on this. So, we're hoping for a full investigation, but I will always repeat when people ask me what I want for the people of East Palestine, and that is to be able to relocate permanently, and for everyone to understand that this was grossly mismanaged by our government, and people are sick and they need that option. How are you going to sort of leave the area if you can't sell your home? How are you going to financially do that? Right.
Absolutely. Scott, when you were, I know you said, you're kind of like me when you see stuff and you're like, yeah, I told you. But when you started looking into this and you see like all of what Robert really is exposing, what are your thoughts as more and more of this is coming out?
Well, that's a great question, but I'm not surprised, but I am surprised to see, in welcoming of his credibility and the truth. Robert coming out again is a hero because he corroborates everything I've been saying in the last year, everything Lesley has been saying, and he's irrefutable. You can't deny his credibility or the facts that he has. And again, there's a lot I can't go into to protect the community, but I can tell you why I'm smiling for the community of East Palestine. As great and as much of an earthquake of truth Robert is, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and we're hoping more people are encouraged by Robert's truth telling. I feel like that's going to, create more whistleblowers like Scott, and we're just hopeful that we're going to end up with more and more truth telling, and so it's just tremendous. It really gives me hope that we might be able to turn a corner at some point here.
On a much larger scale, though, you step back and ask the why. Now, Lesley and I still have a lot more work to go do, and in many ways, it's just beginning, and we don't mind that. Declaring East Palestine as a Superfund site, the implications are probably billions of dollars of liability on the railroad. Potentially, that's where you may get your health care. This goes with the Biden and the emergency declaration. So when you ask why, to the extent of this cover-up and this blatant corruption, I mean, what Robert now really exposes in black and white, but what I've been saying is there's no doubt the EPA is corrupt. And I think Linda Murphy said it best last night, evil. She was great in her interview. So why is that? On a much, a government has failed the citizens and the taxpayers. And it goes back to the lobbyists and the PR people. Norfolk Southern spends $3 million a year. 80% of their lobbyists are ex-government officials. So what this is ex-EPA and EPA officials. And the thing at the EPA, this came from a professor that I work with. So that the cream doesn't rise to the top, the scum rises to the top. And the scum at the EPA is selling everybody out to go make their money. And behind the scenes, the multi-billion-dollar Norfolk Southern hires these people, and it's all going on behind the scenes. We now start to ask ourselves why. And why East Palestine is a turning point. I've said this before, and doing this for 18 years, starting with my own disaster and over 60 disasters, it's like all disasters in one. Every chemical I've ever come across, other than algae blooms and toxins, is in this. It's unprecedented with the mixtures. But East Palestine, I've felt this for a while, is a turning point for the entire country. And everyone in this country needs to pay attention here, because this can be your community next. But East Palestine, I've seen, these joint unified propaganda centers, never been able to get this. First of all, again, we wouldn't be in any of this position if Lesley didn't reach out to me in Government Accountability Project and build out this team. And the team's expanding. But this is a turning point for the entire country. It really is. And again, I'll talk to any elected official, anybody, all political leanings. And, RFK Jr. said it best when I sat down with him, that the EPA is a captured agency. They are corrupt and deceptive. And everything I said on that interview is now been proven beyond a reasonable doubt with Robert. And we just need to stay on this and don't underestimate. And I'm thinking that we need, I think you, me, and Lesley should try to get the community to bombard journalists like Roxanne Sabari from CBS, Alex Presha from ABC, Rebecca Kiger. Bombard them with emails about why don't you cover the truth? Because the media is just as much of a problem here as the EPA. Why do and again, I'm not indicting all the media, but I'm indicting the people in the media that I know that aren't telling the truth, that are distorting things I say, and they're giving Mark Durno, a proven liar at this point, always the last word, and they don't vet him, they don't verify anything. Why is that? Why do these reporters appear to worship the government like they're God? Are they godless? Maybe they are. I don't know. Why do they worship? It's time for these reporters to stop worshiping the government. There are plenty. Maybe they should go to yoga or meditate, but stop worshiping the government and covering up for the government. But Rich McHugh, Chris Cuomo, News Nation, Josh Funk, the Associated Press, they really need to be acknowledged and commended, because all these other journalists at this point, unless they come out with the truth, they're nothing more than public relations people for Mark Durno, the EPA, and the federal government. Now, why is that? And you also see this other web of, again, most nonprofits, tax exempt organizations, local communities do great work for the environment. But this Mom's Clean Air Force thing, silencing people, going to the White House, that's unacceptable, and it's not right. And East Palestine, that's why I'm so optimistic about, and why I said what I said at the beginning. All these great people are coming together, and there's a great team, and it's expanding. We need to expose everything. This is a turning point for the entire country. It really is. And, in many ways, our work is just beginning, and it's going to ramp up even more. But we cannot rest on our laurels. We cannot think we've won this, and we got to stay for the long war, because that's what it was. And that's what it is. And we are going to win this.
Absolutely. Lesley, this is kind of more of a personal question, but I want to talk to you about the people of East Palestine. Because I know I started as a journalist, and then I started meeting the people, and it changed everything. These are people that a lot of government officials, media, what have you, really looked at as, oh, whatever, it's Appalachia or whatever. And they have turned into scientists and scholars and activists, and it's beautiful. And they're so strong and so amazing. So what have what has your experience been like, working, side by side with these residents who have, who are going through this forcibly?
Well, I want to say that I feel like, and I know you've said this before, Joy, I feel like they're family now. Like so many of these folks that I talk to on a regular basis, I feel like I love them. I mean, I know I feel like I've got to help them. I've got to take care of them. And it really inspires me to really work harder to push stuff out that could be helpful to them in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, I mean, I do. I feel like, they're good people, and they're smart, and they're articulate, and they know what's going on. And they've been poisoned, I mean, bottom line, they've been poisoned. And this is one of the worst environmental disasters in history in America. And toxicologists have told me that. It's not just Lesley Pacey's opinion, right? And it's one of the worst cover-ups I've ever seen. And I believe that. I believe it's a big cover-up. So these people don't deserve this. They're just like you and I. They don't deserve this. So, we're just going to fight, and we're going to keep fighting. And, they inspire me. They give me tips all the time. I'm always apologizing because I can't get to all the tips because I'm working on some bigger fish right now, like Robert. I've been working on Robert's story for a month. And so.
Oh gosh, how hard was that not to keep that in? Because I was like, wait, nobody told me about this. You guys tell me lots of stuff.
Well, I mean, I got to keep it quiet because how, I mean, for respect for him and what he's doing, and how dangerous it is, quite frankly. And but yeah, I know I was bursting. I was like, can't wait to get this out. And in the last week, we've just been working so hard at all of us at GAP to push it out as soon as possible, because it is so important for a number of reasons. But I just think I'm just encouraged that we have some truth coming out, and, Scott encourages me, you guys all fighting and telling the truth on a regular basis. It's just so important, though. I can't stress the importance of having information come out through insiders that know firsthand. And I think that EPA's responses there again to this disclosure are not sufficient. And I would like to see, getting back to what Scott said about our media, I would really like to see them press harder to the EPA. Don't just take the canned response. Pick it apart. Ask them more questions. Don't accept it, because they're not addressing probably any of the points that were made. They're just sort of glossing over it and saying, we have a great program. We have 115 million data points. We have robust air quality monitoring. I mean, we're laser focused on what, come on, guys. These are talking points that we do not. I guess we're laser focused on proving they're not laser focused.
Well, I said in an interview, the EPA 113 million, they may as well say 1 billion or 10 billion data points, but they're refusing to test anybody's residents on Taggart Street. They're refusing to test for dioxins. Yeah. So they can go upwind. They're gaming the system. And again, I got to be careful and not reveal anything I'm not supposed to, but I know exactly how Mark Durno and EPA are gaming the system. Robert is just scratched the surface yesterday, but we're going to expose a lot more in the next few weeks. It's just getting started. And the EPA and Mark Durno, that's why their arrogance is amazing, because they're doubling down on their lies. Don't get frustrated. Consider them the gifts that keep on giving. The more they double down on their lies, they don't know what they have. They don't know who's approaching us. Whistleblowers are coming, and they are all going to be exposed. I mean, it's amazing to see what the EPA is putting out today and how they're doubling down. And they're funny, and I almost think, Lesley, that GAP, we ought to organize. I really think we ought to organize an event for the media and invite Alex Pressure from ABC, CBS, and let the residents. Yeah. We ought to go on record, email them, and invite all of them, and have it in person and on Zoom, because the media is in some ways more of a problem than the EPA, because the media, if they just told the truth and did their jobs, they would expose all this. And and again, thank God for Rich McHugh. Thank God for the Associated Press on this. But why ABC, CBS? Oh, you didn't see anything of this on CNN last night, did you?
No.
I
don't want to.
Has CNN reached out to you, Lesley or Robert?
No. But we did get a lot of the story got shared through multiple, all over the country. It did get picked up, but I don't know. Some news agencies haven't done anything with it yet, so I don't know.
And that's why, I know I've said this to my viewers before, but, to my regular viewers and to those tuning in, I see there's like 50 people on Twitter watching too. You guys, this is something that I've been covering for over a year. This is very important. And I need you guys to tell your other YouTubers to speak the hell up, because I swear to you, there's like 2 of us. And even things like this, like, why isn't independent media talking about this? This is huge. And yet it's crickets. And in independent media, we have the privilege of being able to say, you know what, I'm going to talk about whatever I want. And I don't have to slant it. I don't have to censor myself. I'm going to say whatever I want and however I want. And that's a privilege we have. So there's no reason we should not be covering this and covering it justly, so that the residents feel like somebody is actually fighting for them. Because the residents know, like me, Lesley, Scott, they know we're fighting for them. but it seems like they, it's always the same people. We could use more people. Anyone who wants to have residents on their YouTube show, my DMs are open. So just put it out there. Tell other people that this needs to be covered. That's my speech. Sorry.
No.
Joy, that's a great point. I do think it's gaining traction. I have done some independent media. There's been some really good coverage, and I think there's going to be more opportunities. And with 50 people on Twitter, I have a feeling tonight there are a lot more people watching than have in the past, which is a good thing. And I want to say specifically, hi, Mark Durno. Hi, EPA.
Hi, Mark.
Mark Durno, I offer you redemption. You can still test side by side. I'll sit down with you in Norfolk Southern. And for those of you in the media that want to prove you're a real journalist, reach out to Lesley. Prove you're a real journalist and not a public relations person that worships the federal government.
Yeah. And just be a human being. Be a decent human being. I come at this because I'm a mom, right? And I've got kids. I had a kid with cancer at one point. She's fine now. But I mean, this is so unnecessary. The suffering that they put everybody through, it's evil. I really, just be a good human being. Just be nice. Do unto others as you would have done to you. I mean, don't do this to these people. It makes me crazy. So, I'm here to listen. If anybody has a story to tell, you can be anonymous. You can come out. I mean, but I have to tell you, just be dealing with Robert and his tremendous story. I've had residents react to it and just break down and cry, not just because, the reality of the cover up and what was done to them, but that somebody cares enough to really stick their neck out like Scott's been doing. But somebody that, he just retired. He can go cruise around on cruise ships and just live his life. But he was like, I've got to say something, and that's tremendous. I mean, that's a rarity, but we need more people like that. We need that to break this whole situation loose, and we're hopeful. So.
Absolutely. Speaking of, whistleblowers, yesterday I had a couple pieces of information come to me. One, there is a guy named Chad Edwards who was the village manager of East Palestine. He was just fired a day ago. Did you guys hear about that?
Yes. Yeah, I've seen something on social media. I don't know the full story, but if he's fired, based on my experience in East Palestine, he's probably a good guy that was trying to tell the truth.
Yeah, apparently he was questioning some of Norfolk Southern's paths of, why they do this, why they say that. And so there was a vote 2-2, and Mayor Trent Conway was like the deciding vote. And the guy just started 6 months ago. So crazy. But then someone else came to me and said that the fire chief said that there is a leak in one of those 1,000,000-pound or 1,000,000-gallon barrel things.
Oh, the Shamu tanks?
Yeah, the Shamu tank. There's a leak in one of them.
Wow.
And that the fire chief said it.
Yeah.
So this is, that's the thing I really like about Durno. Inadvertently, he is dumb as hell because he doesn't want people to dislike him. It's really weird. Like, he's so easy to loathe, but like, he doesn't want you to dislike him. So he'll be like, well, and he'll just keep going. He'll just keep talking. Well, apparently that's kind of how this fire chief is as well. I don't know. But yeah, apparently there is a leak. And Randy asked it at a town hall the other night as well, which, of course, Mark was like, I don't know. But apparently his face said otherwise. So we'll see, but it's not a surprise. So yeah, everything is changing every day in and around East Palestine. I also, before we go, I want to talk to you guys about, I know that the lawsuit was now bumped to needing to say yay or nay by June 24th, because the 25th is when the NTSB hearing results come back. Do you think, and this is conjecture, but do you think that Roberts, what he revealed will help, the class action?
It could. I'm thinking it might. What do you think there, Scott?
Well, there's a lot I know, again, that I can't say to protect the community, but I can say the plaintiff's attorneys are a little bit panicking right now because they expected a rubber stamp from the judge. I can say that I do believe, and this is conjecture, maybe a little bit more than conjecture, but not one, but that at this point it's gone on long enough. There is no approved settlement. I do not believe the June 24th date is going to hold. And again, it's probability here. I think with the residents and the people that have communicated with the judge, they've had an effect. And I think the judge is not going to rubber stamp this as is with all the fees because of this great community. And the community did this, the people contacting the judge, the voices, the judge is listening, I believe. And I think that she might call a hearing so the residents can speak before she approves it.
That would be
incredible. If she does approve it, I think she's going to move the June 24th date way out. At this point, there's been such a delay. I don't see her holding the June 20, even if she, I don't see her just rubber stamping it without changing some things and moving the date way out. But, and I know some of these plaintiffs' attorneys are not really being straight with people. They're trying to take the easy way out for their $300 to $400 million in fees. There are some decent attorneys out there that are going to give people some options, and there is hope. But, I do think the power is truly with the people here and the attention. And I think Robert Crowdle and Lesley getting this out the way they did is a major catalyst that basically puts this over the cliff. So I'm very optimistic. But again, I don't know for sure. Yeah. Could we wake up tomorrow and the judge rubber stamped that we could? I don't think that's going to happen. But even if that happens, literally get buses and go protest at the court. I think Judge Pearson is really listening to the community. I do.
I hope so. Well, that's a great way to end it. Lesley, what do you want to take people watching to take away from our discussion tonight?
Well, it appears that what we thought in the beginning, we're actually starting to get more and more proof. First with Scott's testing, and then now with Three Rivers Waterkeepers testing, and now with Robert's disclosure. So I say, have hope. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep trying to get the truth out there, because the truth is a sometimes sad but beautiful thing. It's powerful, and just keep it coming. Whoever wants to talk to us, we'll talk to you. We'll make it to where we can, protect you and help these people and keep it from happening again anywhere else. Because right now we're not on a good path with protecting people's health. So hang in there, guys.
Absolutely. And I've said it a million times, and I'm going to say it again. If we do get justice in East Palestine, the two of you are a huge reason why. Truth.
You are. Thanks. And the rest, they just really, and they're working with us, and they're amazing doing what they're doing. So
They are.
and they have to live it. I mean, it's one thing to fight and then and not have to live it every day. So
absolutely. Well, thank you both so much. I love you both to pieces. Thank you so much for coming. I always love having you on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Matt, thank you so much for helping. If you could actually put the Give, Send, Go in the comments. I am still trying to raise money for the residents. I have been getting testing for some residents with the money that I've been raising this time around because, again, the EPA won't do it. So, it's not cheap. So even if you can chip in a few bucks, it really helps the residents out. So thank you again so much for watching. Saturday, I will be in Washington, D.C. for the Nakba rally. And then Monday, I have Due Diligence fellas coming on. Tuesday's my birthday, so I am taking a break. And then I'll be back on Wednesday. So, but thank you guys so much. Smash the like button, smash subscribe. And if you're on Twitter, come over and please smash like and subscribe, because if you're just on Twitter and don't do that, it does not help my algorithm at all. So thank you guys so much again for joining. What's that say?
Thank you very much, Matt. And Joy, we will talk again soon.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah, we will. Thanks so much, guys. Much love, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.